Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
Morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everybody who tunes in and watches us online. Thanks for joining us. So there's this local bar where the bar is convinced that their bartender is the strongest guy in town, to the point that they have a standing offer of a $1,000 bet. And how it works is the bartender takes a lemon, squeezes all the juice into a glass, and then gives it to a patron. And if they could squeeze even one drop extra out of that lemon, that they'll win the $1,000. And many, many people had tried. I mean, from weightlifters to longshoremen and firemen, everybody who was strong and powerful did this, and they all failed. And one day, this scrawny little man with thick glasses and a polyester suit walks in, and in a squeaky voice, he said, "I'd like to try that bet." And after all the laughter died down in the bar, the bartender grabbed the lemon and squeezed it tightly, and had all the juice ran into the glass, and he handed the wrinkled remains of the rind to this little scrawny guy. And everybody's laughter went to silence when the scrawny guy not only clinched this thing and had a drop of juice come out, but 6 drops. And so as the crowd is cheering and the bartender is giving the $1,000 to the little man, the bartender says, "So what do you do for a living? Are you a lumberjack or a weightlifter or what?" And the little guy says, "No, I work for the IRS." Okay. IRS. All right. So, figure it's close enough to tax day that we could have a good tax joke. Interesting thing is that people don't like the IRS. And from the history of time, nobody likes tax collectors. In biblical times, ancient times, they've never been very popular. Nobody likes tax collectors. Nobody wants to hang with them. They don't get the love. No one wants to be their friends. Could you imagine being a tax collector? Can you imagine nobody wanting to be your friend? So many people ever had a time in your life where you're going through something tough and you felt like you didn't have a friend or someone to lean on or call to? Anybody have? A few of us. How many people have wanted to make friends, but sometimes find it's hard to make really close friends? Anybody have? How many people have had a friend who has helped them through a difficult and challenging time, and you love them and they'll be in your heart for the rest of your life? We all do. You know, I think one of the most beautiful and wonderful and blessed feelings of all is to know that you've got a friend. To know that there is somebody out there that you can count on, someone you can call on, someone you can lean on, someone who understands you and really gets you, someone who is there for you, who is willing to support you and encourage you and to help you in your deepest, darkest hours. Someone there that you feel so safe with that you can cry, that you can laugh, that you can be the true you, the most authentic self, and know that you are loved and fully accepted. To me, having a friend like that and knowing that your friend loves you is one of the greatest blessings in the world. You know, but friends actually provide more of a blessing than we realize. Studies show that important as family is, that friends actually help us in our health and level of fulfillment even more than our family does. The studies show that people who have friends actually are healthier. They're less depressed. They feel more of a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. They feel that they're supported and encouraged. You know, they feel reduced amounts of stress, greater levels of fulfillment and happiness. They go through traumas and difficult times, through divorce or bankruptcy or whatever difficulties. They tend to feel better and more supported through those difficult times. People who have friends tend not to pick up as bad habits, you know, whether it's drinking or not exercising or making poor choices, because they have friends who can support them and encourage them and give them advice. Of the elderly, people who have more friends when they're older tend to actually live 22% longer than people who do not have that level of support and friendship. Social networks, make us feel a fuller experience of life. So having friends is far more valuable and far more fulfilling than we even realize. It's more than just a nice feeling. It actually helps us have a fuller and more meaningful life. But here's the interesting thing. Over the last 20 years, people have reported feeling close to fewer and fewer people. That down from 1985, are we from people reporting they have 3 close friends to now reporting they have 50% of people say they have 2 close friends. 40% of people say they have 1 close friend. And 5% feel like they have no person they can really rely on or count on or turn to in a difficult time. And I find that amazing. That we feel like we have less and less friends. People have thousands of Facebook friends. People have thousands of those, but yet people are feeling more distant, isolated, and disconnected from others. Levels of, antidepressant drugs and recreational drugs and alcohol and suicide, those things continue to rise in a time you think they would be going down because we have more access to one another. But the interesting thing about those phones, they keep us connected but really disconnected. I saw a thing that a family was sitting around a table, everybody on their phone, and they said, being alone together. That's what they called it. Because with that little thing, we can stay in touch, do work, listen to music, research, play games. We can be entertained without even leaving our homes, thinking we're so connected, but that form of connection reduces intimacy and true closeness and true heart and soul connection. And so antidepressant drugs are higher, but there's an even more powerful drug that can help this, and it's called friendship. That when we reach out for friends, it can be far more supportive and healing and expanding and nurturing to our souls, uplift us in great and amazing and wonderful ways. So today we're going to talk about the value of friendships, the power and the importance of them, but also how to develop and deepen the quality of the friendships in our lives. So we are in week 3 of our 4-week annual series called The Songs of Life. Because we all know songs can touch us in an amazing and profound way. We all have some special song, I'm sure, that remind us of a difficult time or helped us get through a difficult situation or makes us feel strong and powerful, when things aren't going well. In week 1, we looked at If I Can Dream by Elvis Presley, and that was looking at the power of hope and the power to dream. Last week, we looked at Daybreak by Barry Manilow, and that was really about looking at the power of a positive attitude and also to have a fresh start, to have a new day and a new beginning. Today, we'll look at the 1971 hit written by Carole King called You've Got a Friend and made famous by James Taylor. Socrates once said, there is no possession more valuable than a good and faithful friend. Aristotle thought that life would not be worth living if we did not have friends. It would not be fulfilling and meaningful if we didn't have friends. So why is this friendship thing so important? Why is it so beneficial and meaningful to us? And here's 3 reasons. The first one is that life is hard, and sometimes we need a little bit of help. Here's what Oprah says. Over the years, I've learned that nobody makes it alone. Every one of us gets through tough times because somebody is there for us. I wouldn't be who I am today without my friends. I rely on them to tell me the truth, to keep me grounded, to keep this big life I live in perspective. My friends are my therapy, my release, my sounding board, my safe harbor. And that fact is, everyone's life is tough. That there are hurts and there are heartaches, there are disappointments, there are traumas, there are mistakes and regrets, there are losses. Life isn't easy, but having friends, I believe, make the bumpy road of life a little smoother and far less bumpy and far more peaceful and fulfilling and enjoyable. To have somebody believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. To have someone there who reminds you that you're wonderful, that you're beautiful, and you're capable when your confidence is low, to me is a great gift that can lift us and buoy us up in the most difficult times, because life is tough. I remember one of the most difficult times in my life was when my father died. And my father died at and there was a snowstorm. It was in January, and his funeral and his burial, there was ice all over the place. And so from the road at the cemetery to where his body was going to be laid was about 200 feet. There's no way I could walk that far, and particularly with ice, that was just too dangerous. So I had to stay 200 or 300 feet away from my 9 siblings while my father was being laid to rest. And it was tough being that far away from my father. My best friend Vivian, who I'd known since I was probably 7 or 8 years old, was a pallbearer in my place because he was like the 11th child. He was so close to our family, not just my best friend. And so while all that was going on and the family was all hugging and crying together and I'm off, 200-300 feet away, Vivian left everybody and walked down quietly all the way, very slowly and safely because of the ice. And he just came right in front of me and he held me and I wept in his arms. And he held me until I finished crying. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to say a word. But that was one of the most loving and supportive acts of friendship that I ever experienced in my life. I'll never forget it. And to me, that's how powerful friends can have an impact in our lives, that even at the darkest hour in our pain, just the fact that they understand us and they're there for us. I mean, I just melted in his arms and I just cried. And it was one of the most sweetest, safe, loving experiences of my life. So who's been there for you in your difficult times? Because every one of us, I'm sure, has, and everyone still needs to have a friend because life isn't easy. And friends definitely make the road less bumpy and more enjoyable. Like another famous song says, sometimes we need our friends to get by with a little help from our friends. Second thing about friendships that's important is I think it helps us remember that we're not alone and that we are loved. Sometimes we can feel alone. Sometimes we can feel unloved. In Scripture it says God is love, and it says the greatest commandment is to love God, to love others as we love ourselves. Love is the fulfilling of the law. Love is what makes life fulfilling. And I think that friendships offer us a level of love that makes life feel more full and more complete. Again, family love is a great and fabulous thing, but friendship love is an expansive love, that expands the love that our family has for us. What I love about friends is like your family, you didn't have a choice with them. You got them. You're born them. You got to love them. They got to love you. That's the deal. But friends, we get to pick. Friends, we create. We cultivate and nurture those relationships. And that's a powerful and amazing and wonderful thing. Every one of us has an instinctive yearning for friends. An instinctive yearning for friendship, to be loved in that beautiful and wonderful way by these people who were strangers to us at one point, but who have now feel so close that they provide a level of love and support in so many ways. I love how friends love our quirks and our goofiness and our idiosyncrasies. They love us no matter what mistakes that we've made or things that haven't worked out well. They still love us. They provide an amazing and wonderful love and safety net of support and comfort that I think is just tremendous. I think friends are also great because they help see the good in us we sometimes don't see in ourselves. They sometimes wake us up and remind us, hey, you can do this. Everything will be okay. You're wonderful. You're talented. Everything will be fine. You're going to be a great success. And so it's great to have friends because they remind us that we're not alone. They remind us that we are loved. They remind us that we are wonderful. My favorite line in the song is, ain't it good to know you've got a friend? Because to me, that's the same as saying, ain't it good to know that you are loved? Ain't it good to know that people care? Ain't it good to know that you are valued? Ain't it good to know that you're cherished? Ain't it good to know that you have people who really, really care about you? And the third thing about friends that I really like is they help us lighten up. They help us, just have fun and just go and enjoy life and be silly and have a good belly laugh. Because sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. Sometimes we get way too stuck in our stuff and our work and our life and our responsibilities and what isn't working well. So I love friends in the way that they can just help lighten us up, take us away, and we just have a really good time. I've got a friend named Dave. He is the freest spirit of any human being I've ever met. He is not ambitious. He's not driven. He just likes to live his life, and that's it. This guy was so carefree. He left Michigan. He left Detroit, Michigan, and drove to Unity Village, the Unity World headquarters, and thought he'd just become a minister. And he literally left his life and moved there to become a minister, to find out there are actually rules and prerequisites and classes you need to take. But he was so sure he wanted to make a spiritual difference in everybody's life. And so that didn't work out. So what he did was he didn't leave. He stayed at Unity Village and became a silent Unity prayer worker. So he answered prayer calls there while he was there for a couple of years. And as I got to know this guy, I just loved him. His phone message was this: "Hi, this is Dave. Please leave a message. You're going to be glad you did." And I love that. I would phone this guy when he was at work just to hear him say, "Please leave a message. You're going to be glad you did." We'd drive around and he'd say stuff, and I think I've mentioned this before. We'd be driving around and he'd say, "Hey, you see that beautiful sunset? God made that just for me." I said, "Really?" Everything beautiful, he would say, "Hey, God made that for me. God made that for me. And the best part is I don't have to take care of it. God made that for me. God made this whole universe just for me and makes it all work just for me." And I thought he was nuts, but it actually makes sense. He acknowledged that this universe is supporting his life, and I found that so refreshing. Dave and I would laugh our butts off. That guy, I can make him laugh more than any human being in this world. He laughs, and he calls me Rico. He's the only person that calls me Rico. Please don't call me Rico. But, and Dave would be laughing. I'd be saying something so goofy, and he'd laugh, and I'd say more and more. And he'd say, "Rico, stop, stop, stop." And his laugh is one of the greatest sounds I've ever heard in my life. It's childlike joy, and it just lights me up. You know, Dave and I, we didn't really do a lot of amazing things. We did 3 things regularly together. We had breakfast, because from a family of 10 with a family with not a lot of money, you don't go out for breakfast. So I got introduced to the first time as an adult having breakfast out, which is so fun. Second, we went to movies together at a movie called Swingers with Vince Vaughn. There were 2 buddies there, and the one guy called his friend Money because it was like money in the bank. He's so dependable. So he calls me Rico, and I call him Money. The other thing we do, grocery shopping. It sounds boring, but I loved grocery shopping together. And it's cool to see what other people get and what you get that are different, but it was just fun to do that together with Dave. And we started interesting traditions. Like one of them, Dave loved Twinkies, and he loved Miller High Life beer, and because it was the champagne of beers, so we were pretty classy guys. And so I actually asked him to move to North Carolina with me, and 6 months after he moved from Kansas City to North Carolina, I moved back to Kansas City. But he was still my friend, and it's been 18 years, and any time we see each other, which have been back about 6 times in 18 years, so that's average every 3 years, he will always, when we see, he'll bring a backpack and a cooler, and it has 2 Twinkies, 2 Miller High Life beers, and we will toast, and our toast is always the same, and that is to new beginnings. Because every time we see each other is a new opportunity to deepen our friendship and our joy. The other tradition is every birthday he calls me and sings a birthday song for me. He sings happy birthday. And the thing about that's amazing is that Dave does, I don't know Dave's age. Dave doesn't celebrate his own birthday. He calls himself ageless. He says there is no time. So he doesn't acknowledge time. But he acknowledges my birthday because he knows it's special to me. And he sings me happy birthday every year. And 2 weeks ago, whenever it was my birthday, he did it again. And I was so moved by it, I listened to the previous 5 years of birthday songs that he sang for me. I keep them all, because that's what a difference it makes to me. Dave makes me smile and laugh and forget about the craziness of the world, and it brings me more joy than I can imagine. And the thing about it is, Dave and I haven't lived in the same town for 18 years. And to show that friendship and a bond and a connection is not about, the distance doesn't ever stop that level of love. So who is it that makes you laugh? Who is it that makes you act silly and forget about all the responsibilities? Because to me, that's a great gift of friendship. It helps us through our difficult times. It helps us remember that we're not alone, that we're loved. And it helps us lighten up and have a little bit of fun. So this thing about friendship, how do we nurture them and cultivate more of them? And here are some steps. Let me read some scripture, and then we can talk about how to make and deepen our friendships. John 15:12. Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. And the first thing to develop a friendship is really about showing interest in someone else. You know, when we hear that scripture, no greater love than this to the man who'd lay down his life for his friend, we take it to that extreme of laying down your life and dying for them. But it's an extreme of a principle, which is to lay aside your own concerns and your own needs for a while, to put someone else's needs, their feelings and their desires, their hurt ahead of yours. That is a great and powerful love. To be able to let go of that, to make someone else the focus, you know, to see what you can do to help support them, to help heal their hurt or comfort them or help their dreams come true is an important thing. So for a friendship to grow, it really needs us to be more interested in others, to find out what's really going on with them. Listen to these fabulous words from Dale Carnegie in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years of trying to get people to become interested in you. And we all hear the truth and the wisdom in that, is that reaching out and caring about someone, finding out what's up and going on with them is a huge and valuable and an important way to become friends. Because when we do, it opens their hearts and it opens a channel for a greater connection in our lives. And to me, that's a valuable and important thing. You know, sometimes, you know, we're all looking for connection, and usually when people who are like-minded. And sometimes we think it's about the yoga class that we're all in, or the church that we're all in, or the support group that we're all in, or the poker club, or bunco, or the wine club. And those things are just vehicles because we're all seeking a deeper soul connection. That we think it's about those things that connect us, but no, it's actually a deeper connection. We just use those as vehicles to allow ourselves to feel a greater sense of connection. Interesting thing I think about friends is to notice that, to learn about ourselves by what things we are connected and interested to with other people. How many people have friends that you like, 2 different kind of friends, but they don't get along? So you have, you know what I mean? Like you have a certain party, you'll invite some to this or that, but you like them both. But they may not like each other, but you like them both. And I think that's always interesting because it shows different aspects and facets of us that are connected to different types of people. Like my friend Mike, he is very disciplined, he is very responsible, he is very philosophical and serious. Mike and I have been traveling all over to watch NBA games in 16 different cities over the last 18 years. We travel every time together. It's a great and fabulous thing. Dave is the most free spirit, unambitious human being I've ever met. Mike is the total opposite, and I love them both. They both live in North Carolina, and they're not friends. But I love each of them with all of my heart. You ever have things like that? But to me, that's a cool insight into us. To know, hey, there's a part of me, that free spirit in me loves Dave, and he helps bring that out. And Mike brings that philosophical, responsible, deeper spiritual kind of thing out. And of course, we all love sports too. But it is a cool thing that because friends help us learn about ourselves. Because in a way, they are a reflection of us. So I think that's a cool thing. So first thing to make a friend is to show interest in them, and then pay attention to those things that are interest. And then the other one, next thing is Jesus said, and this is, you got to be willing to share yourself and be vulnerable. Jesus said, I have shared these things, that the things that were precious to him, he shared with his friends. And so for us to share what's precious to us, it means we need to be honest. We need to be vulnerable. We need to be open about what's really important to us and share that with others. And not right off the bat. Those things take time. But ultimately, if you want to have a good friendship, at some level, you've got to be more vulnerable. You got to go a little deeper and share more of who you are and what's going on. And sometimes for us, that's scary. It's risky to share ourselves. It's risky. You know, I'll tell you, I speak in front of lots of people, but sometimes in a room full of folks, I can be kind of shy. Sometimes, you know, we don't want to put ourselves all out there. Sometimes even walking up to someone and starting a conversation can be a terrifying experience. But the truth is, if you want to have a deeper relationship, you have to open up. You have to risk. You have to share. You have to be more honest. You have to be more vulnerable. And yeah, there'll be times relationships don't work out and someone doesn't want to be your friend and things don't happen. But there are times that you really do need to reach out. There's times that you need, you know, to allow yourself to be more vulnerable. I remember when we were growing up at one of the houses we were living in, there was a little girl. And so there are 10 of us. And, you know, I'm the youngest boy. And the little girl used to come and knock on the door and say, can the kids come out to play? would you guys be my friends? And the kid would ask this like every day. She'd come over. And she was younger than us. But you know what? We'd go out and play. And we became friends. And different one of us would take turns so everybody didn't have to keep playing with the kid because she was like younger than us. But the fact is, if she didn't put herself out there, she wouldn't have gotten us to play. She wouldn't have developed that friendship. We would have thought the kid's too young. We're not going to play with the kid. But she asked. She was willing to be vulnerable. And I think we all need to do that to deepen our level of friendship with one another. Sometimes even reaching out here in a safe place like this, sometimes we're shy to say hello to somebody. Say hi, to introduce ourselves and say what our name is. You know? And sometimes we need to ask ourselves, what's holding me back from reaching out and being more vulnerable? You know, if I want to have friends, what is it stopping me from sharing more of myself and putting myself out there? Final thing about friendship to me that's important is to remember to nurture and to cherish and to appreciate those friendships. One of the greatest friendships of my life is my prayer partner. We've been praying together for 20 years now. She's one of those fun, caring. The number one word I use with her is, I feel safe. And to me, that's a powerful and important word. I feel safe and understood. She is an amazing person. And the one thing I think I've done best in that relationship is share how meaningful and valuable she is in my life. What a difference she absolutely makes. And I think that's one of the aspects that has helped us maintain such a long and wonderful friendship. So who's someone in your life that maybe you haven't said to them in a while, hey, you know, you really make a difference. Here, this thing that you do is something that brings me so much joy and makes me feel so loved. A couple of weeks ago when Dave sang Happy Birthday, I sent him a wonderful text that just said, man, you have no idea how that lifts my day every single year and what joy it means to me and brings to my life. And we had this wonderful and amazing connection from that experience. Because it's good to have that experience, but it's good to cherish it and appreciate it because that even brings more joy and more blessings. Another thing I've learned about friendships is it's never too late to be a friend and to make a friend. My friend's dad had a real good buddy that they would do all kinds of things together for ages, on the phone, go camping, do all kinds of stuff. And then the friend died. His name was Bob Miller, died in his late 60s. And it wasn't until he was 75 that my friend's dad found a new friend, and they're doing all kinds of wonderful things. And his wife was sad because he'd lost his friend, and that was such a big part of his life. But when he got somebody new at 75 and camping and on the phone, all that stuff, his wife said, and my friend said of his dad, he found his new Bill Miller. And so the fact is, if we have lost a friend or things aren't there, it's never too late to develop a new friendship. Never too late to make that connection. I met my mentor at 90 years old. He was 90 when I met him. I knew him for 4 years before he passed away. 4 fabulous years of friendship. I was in my 40s, he was 90. Age doesn't matter. He was an amazing friend and a teacher to me. It's never too late to make a friend. And the final one is that even if friendships don't last a long time, it doesn't mean it's a failure. Some people come into our life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. We shouldn't diminish the value or quality or impact of a friendship just because it didn't last. That's a thing we create and call it a failure. That's not true. Because I have had relationships that lasted only a short time, friendships that for a while, but they still are in my heart and I'll never forget. I had a friend in Kansas City who was a doctor, Dr. Bill Brooks, and I was terrified. I'm very claustrophobic and I needed an MRI, and he was so sweet. They had to give me Valium, and I was still scared. He drove me, but he also held my hand through that entire MRI while I had it. And to me, that is one of the sweetest things I'll never forget, even though Bill and I aren't close anymore. And just because something didn't last doesn't mean that it was not special. I didn't touch you and change you and have an impact on you for the rest of your life. That's how powerful friendships are. Everybody wants a fulfilling life. And sometimes we think, I don't have enough time for friends. I don't have enough time, or I'm too shy. The truth is, one of the greatest investments you could ever make is to develop and nurture our friendships. They will remind you that you are loved. They will have you lighten up. It'll help you through difficult situations. You will feel supported. You will feel a sense of meaning. Every one of us deserves that. So I encourage you today, thank a friend and tell them what a difference they've made. Introduce yourself today and tell somebody your name. Reach out a little bit and set a goal to maybe develop a new friendship in one way or another with your life. Every one of us deserves that level of love, and we all should have the wonderful and warm feeling to say to ourselves, you've got a friend. God bless you all.